Hello everyone, Tom with Capo Fetish. Today we're going to talk about our 10 favorite Neil Young studio albums. In addition, at the end of the video, I'm going to throw in some of my favorite archive releases as well. So, without further ado, let's start off with number 10, and that is 1990's Ragged Glory. This is a great return to form for Neil and Crazy Horse. After a kind of a strange and odd 1980s where he was experimenting with techno and rockabilly and everything under the sun, this really gets Neil Young back to what he does best, and that is rocking and performing great, well-written songs. It starts off with a great track, Country Home. Great, catchy little tune. Three of my favorite songs on here, though, are Days That Used to Be, Mansion on the Hill, and Over. Really infectious tunes, some great guitar workouts. You have a couple of tunes that he's still playing live to this day. Electric Fucking Up, and Love and Only Love seems to be in like almost every set that he plays, Electric. To this day, it ends with this really cool a cappella tune, very long track, Mother Earth, which is really cool. This is a really strong album. Ragged Glory from 1990, Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Coming in at number 9 is, I think, one of his great albums that no one really talks about from 1994, and that's Sleeps with Angels. The title track is kind of an homage to Kurt Cobain, the death of Kurt Cobain. Really odd, really dark track. Some really cool tracks on here, though. We've got My Heart, which starts it off. Really cool little track. Prime of Life. My favorites on here, though, Drive By, Change Your Mind, Western Hero. I love the song Trans Am. Really cool, laid-back track. A lot of these tracks are very dark and moody. It's a great headphone listen if you've never heard it. It ends with just a beautiful song called A Dream That Can Last, with this kind of like honky-tonk barroom piano. Very melancholy and beautiful. Sleeps with Angels, 1994, coming in at number 9 for me. Coming in at number 8 is probably his most well-known album, most popular album, that is Harvest. It's a great album. A couple of tracks on here I don't really care for. There Is a World and Man Needs a Maid. Never really cared for those two tracks, but everything else I love. I love Out on the Weekend. Great start-off track on side 1. The title track is fantastic. Are You Ready for the Country? It has Needle and the Damage Done, just a timeless song. Alabama is probably the most rockingest song on this album. Then it ends with Words, really long workout there. There's actually like a full side version of that track on the album, the soundtrack album, Journey Through the Past. It takes up the whole side. I think it's the entire uncut version. It's really interesting to listen to if you've never heard that. But yeah, Harvest is a great record, and I don't think he ever had a number 1 album after this. So 1971, after this, he would go into the Ditch trilogy. It had enough of fame and all the trappings that come with it, and we'll get to some of those albums shortly. Coming in at number 7 is his fine debut, Neil Young, featuring The Loner, one of my favorite tracks. It's the second song on side 1. You got If I Could Have Her Tonight, I've Been Waiting for You, I've Loved Her So Long, Here We Are in the Years, What You Do to My Life. All those tracks are just superb songwriting craft. You've got The Old Laughing Lady, which is a great track. Also has 2 really cool little openers on side 1 and side 2. Side 1 opens up with an instrumental called Emperor of Wyoming. Side 2 has another instrumental called String Quartet from Whiskey Boot Hill. Really cool album. I don't think it even dented the charts. And after this, he would go into a different direction like he always will, or always would, down the road. A much more rawer style in the next album. Everybody knows This Is Nowhere. But this album is really well produced, really well written songs. Great album from Neil Young. His debut, 1968. Coming in at number 6 is part of that Ditch trilogy that we talked about. At 1974's On the Beach. I think this was the last of those 3 albums, and it's just chock full of great, brooding, moody, dark Neil Young songs. The first track, though, is the most uplifting song. Walk On, great track. You have See the Sky About to Rain, which he was already promoting and playing live 3 years prior to this album. I have a bootleg of him at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion where he played that song. Then you've got just a bunch of just long workouts, really just, Neil in a weird state of mind. Revolution Blues, Vampire Blues, On the Beach is fantastic. Motion Pictures, Ambulance Blues, For the Turnstiles, which I originally heard on the Decade album years ago. A great laid back listen here. Great moody album. On the Beach from 1974. Now, here's an album that has really grown on me over the years. It took me years to really fully get it and really understand this album, but I love Tonight's the Night. Written about kind of a tribute to Bruce Berry, the roadie, who died of a overdose, and then of course Danny Whitten, the guitarist, who died of a heroin overdose. So it's very dark, a lot of tequila on this album here. You can hear it in Neil's voice. It's so ragged. At points, it's almost laughable. It's just so, like, it's so on the edge and just collapsing. But I don't know, I think that's part of the charm of this album. It's very dark, but it's also very uplifting in parts too. You have a live version of Come On Baby, Let's Go Downtown, which Danny Whitten wrote and sung, and it's from the archival release Fillmore East 1970. That's on this album. You've got this great song on here, Speaking Out, with some great guitar playing from Nils Lofgren, some great piano. I don't know who's playing the piano on that track, but it's just really great. You have a great song called New Mama. It's about 2 minutes long, but features these just stellar harmonies and these really weird chord changes. And that's a highlight for me. Always been a highlight for me. You got Albuquerque on here. Roll another number for the road. One of my favorites though is Mellow My Mind, which I think has one of his most ragged vocals of all time. And the song ends with one of the coolest chords I've ever heard. It's just really, the way it rings out, it's just fantastic. You got Tonight's the Night, a reprise of that song that ends the album. It's just a really amazing listen. And if you've never heard this album, I highly recommend it. It's really a really cool listen. That's coming in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is kind of a revamped Crazy Horse for the mid-70s. Danny Whitten has passed at this point. They've brought in Frank Sampedro, also known as Pancho, taking his part on rhythm guitar. This is a solid record from start to finish. It starts off with Don't Cry, No Tears. Don't Cry, No Tears. A song that Neil wrote even prior to the Buffalo Springfield formation. You got Danger Bird, which I think Lou Reed loved at one point. I remember him, and he doesn't like anything. He loved this tune. I remember reading that. Really odd song, Danger Bird. Some great guitar workouts. Pardon My Heart, great, shall we say, ballad. And side one ends with Looking for Love and Barstool Blues. Great rocker. I used to play that with my band years ago. Side 2 starts with Stupid Girl, Drive Back. You've got the mystical, mysterious Cortez the Killer. Great guitar playing from Neil Young in that song. And then it ends with Through My Sails with backup vocals from Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Just a really solid album here. Zuma from 1975 coming in at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is a perfect album from start to finish. Side 1 is all acoustic. Side 2 is all electric. And all of it is just fantastic. I'm talking about Rust Never Sleeps from 1979. It starts off with My, Hey, Hey, Into the Black, the acoustic version. The album would eventually end with Hey, Hey, My, the electric version. You got on here Pocahontas, Ride My Llama, Thrasher, and Sail Away, ending side 1, which is such a beautiful song. And I think you got Nicolette Larson singing backup on that. Side 2 is just an absolute banger. You got Powderfinger, I think the best version ever on vinyl. One of his greatest guitar solos, one of his greatest songs, and probably one of my top 3 Neil Young songs of all time. Powderfinger. Welfare Mothers, Swings and Grooves, it's great. You got Sedan Delivery, which just rocks out in punk style. Those weird changes, those weird beat changes. And then, of course, Hey, Hey, My, Into the Black ends the album. Perfect album, solid from start to finish. Acoustic on side 1, electric on side 2, 5-star. Number 2, 1969's Everybody Knows. This is Nowhere. This is a garage rock masterpiece. There's just not one bad moment on here. Starts off with Cinnamon Girl and with that amazing coda at the end with the guitar. So amazing. It never gets sick with Cinnamon Girl. You got the title track, which is killer. You have Round and Round. And I don't know who the woman is singing backup, but I love her voice. Got Cowgirl in this, or Town by the River, and side 1. Side 2, you got Losing End, nice little country tune. Running Dry, with that really cool fiddle, that mournful fiddle. It ends with the epic Cowgirl in the Sand, I think one of his best melodies he's ever written. Just an absolute 5-star album. Everybody knows this is Nowhere from 1969. And number 1 has always been my number 1 Neil Young album, 1970s After the Gold Rush. I think this has some of his best songwriting ever that he's ever done. Tell Me Why, the title track, Only Love Can Break Your Heart, Southern Man. Side 1 and side 2 end with 2 great little ditties, Till the Morning Comes on side 1, Cripple Creek Ferry on side 2. You got a really mournful ballad on here called Birds on side 2. Don't Let It Bring You Down is one of my absolute favorite songs of his ever. I Believe in You, When You Dance I Can Really Love, Oh Lonesome Me. 5-star album right here. Probably in my top 20 albums of all time. Easily. So there's my top 10 Neil Young albums. Let's talk a little bit about the Archive series. Now, there have been so many archival releases from Neil. They're almost coming out weekly, right? And there's a lot coming out from the same era, like 70, 71. This show from 71 at this place, and this show from 70. So I have both of the box sets, the Volume 1 and Volume 2, but I'll just go over some of the single releases. And a couple of these were included in these box sets, Volume 1 and Volume 2. First one I really dig is The Hitchhiker, which was recorded August 11th, 1976. It's more kind of a demo album, demoing songs like Powderfinger and Ride My Llama, Pocahontas, and others. But I think it's really cool. It's just Neil and the guitar, and it just keeps rolling, just him and the guitar. And I think the record company didn't deem this too commercial to release, so they just kind of axed it. But it was released a few years back, maybe about 2018, 2017, I believe. I can't remember, but great listen. Just Neil and the guitar and some great tunes. Another great one is Homegrown. This was recorded between June 74 and June 75. It was slated to be released, but they actually released Tonight's the Night instead, 75. But this has a lot of really cool tunes as well. You've got Star of Bethlehem, and that one I only knew from the Decade album. Love is a Rose as well. Homegrown, title track, White Line, Vacancy, Separate Ways, Mexico. Just a really good laid-back album. And he didn't want to release it at the time, but it was released all those years later. And if you've never heard it, check it out. I think it's a fantastic release. And then as far as some of these live archival releases, these are some of my favorite. I love the Tonight's the Night live at the Roxy. Here you have a crowd that is probably expecting, Neil to play all of his favorites and hits and such, but he doesn't give them any hits. He just plays this unknown album in its entirety that won't even be released till like 2 years later. So this is, I think, the first performance that was ever done at the Roxy. This is the opening night of the Roxy in 1973. And Neil Young is giving him all these strange, dark songs. They're probably waiting for like Cinnamon Girl or something that they recognize to come on, but Neil doesn't come through. He just keeps playing all the Tonight's the Night material, and it sounds fantastic. Some of these songs even sound better live than they do on the record. And I'm even amazed how they pull off New Mama on this live album. It's just, the backup vocals and harmonies are just perfect. But I think he did play like an encore of The Losing End, which I think is on the Volume 2 box set. And maybe he did Walk On one other night, but nobody knew that song either at the time. But here it is, Neil Young completely just doing it the way he wants to do it. All Tonight's the Night in one night. People are very perplexed, but I think some people probably dug it. Pretty cool stuff. Another great one, another great live one from 1970, live at the Fillmore East. One of the few, that you can hear with Danny Whitten playing with the band. You've got Jack Nitzsche on piano, electric piano, which really adds a cool vibe to the songs. Of course, you've got a lot of stuff from Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere on here, like Cowgirl in the Sand, Down by the River, the title track. But there's a couple of tracks on here I just love. One called Wanderin', kind of this country kind of tune, and I think maybe even Crazy Horse did it on their first album. I believe. Great version of Winter Long on here as well, which wouldn't be released till the Decade album again. years later. Surprisingly, Cinnamon Girl is not on here. They may have played it, but didn't include it on this release. And then, of course, you've got Come On Baby, Let's Go Downtown, the version that was released on Tonight's the Night, right from this performance here. So this is a great, great version. An incredible live version of Cowgirl in the Sand, by the way, with Jack Nitzsche's electric piano just up front and center. Really cool. And then last but not least, I think this is not only one of my favorite Neil Young archival releases, but I think one of the best sounding live recordings I have ever heard. Live at Massey Hall from '71. Great song list all the way through, just one banger after another. He starts off with On the Way Home from Buffalo Springfield, ends with I Am a Child. So ends and starts with 2 Buffalo Springfield songs, everything in between from the first album, Everybody Knows It's Nowhere. After the Gold Rush, he's previewing songs from the forthcoming Harvest. This is just, it almost sounds like he's in your living room. The mix is just perfection. So this is my favorite archival release so far. And I believe at one time they were going to release this as an actual release, but decided not to. But anyway, we have it now. It's awesome. It's great. There you have it. There's my favorite Neil Young studio albums, favorite archival releases. What are your favorites? Please list them in the comments section. Please press subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.